Oh, so record on this computer though.
Yep.
What I did, I swear you,
Okay, I'll send it to you.
because I watch all your stuff.
Yep, that'll be good. And it's, I mean, there's definitely different services and things. Hello, everybody. How are we? Welcome to week 2 of our business plan boot camp. Super excited. I hope everyone had a great and safe Thanksgiving. We have a couple additional people who are participating in person as well as via Zoom. So hello, everybody. This is being recorded, as all of our business plan boot camp will be, so that I can send out the link afterwards in case you missed something. And I'm super excited that for week 2, we are talking about market and competitive analysis. And who better to talk to you and teach you about that section of the business plan but our very own Professor Kurt Hersch from Gannon University, who not only is a professor here teaching entrepreneurial classes, but he also is a successful entrepreneur himself. So without further ado, Professor Hersch.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I see that we have Ken and Letitia on, at least remotely. And I don't know if Ken or Letitia, if you could give me a thumbs up on your, give me some indication you can hear me.
Okay.
Oh, okay, great. Thanks, Letitia. Thank you so much. Thanks, Ken. Okay, guys, so we're going to talk about market and competitive analysis. So the first thing that I wanted to do is just expand a little bit of an introduction, because you should always question who's telling you things. So you guys make a decision whether you think that you should listen to me. So basically, my background is in 3 sections. About 10 to 15 years per section. So the first 10 years of my career, I worked in Fortune 500 companies. So I worked at IBM, I worked at Chase Manhattan Bank, and I did accounting, I did a lot of strategy work, I did a lot of stuff. In fact, at the very end, I did Chase.com's internet presence. For the next 10 years, I did startups. I did other people's startups, all tech startups, mostly, well, actually all software startups as well. Until the very last startup was my own. It was myself and 2 of my former colleagues from Chase. We started up a software security company. We ended up getting venture capital financing from one of the top 50 venture capital companies in the world. And after building out the company, building up the employees, building up a set of customers like Citibank and Bank of America and the United Nations, we ended up selling the software to HP. So at that point in time, my wife, who's from Erie, and myself, I'm from Erie, we decided to move back to Erie because this was our hometown. We were down in Texas at the time. And kind of wanted to figure out something that I could do that would be interesting and fun and meaningful. And for me, that was teaching. So I had the opportunity 14 years ago to start at Gannon, because Gannon was thinking about starting an entrepreneurship program. So it just so happened my skill set kind of matched what they were looking for. And I've been teaching entrepreneurship for 12 years. So 10 years, 10, 12 years in Fortune 500 companies, 10, 12 years in startups, 10, 12 years teaching entrepreneurship. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff that has to do with kind of your customer segments and your market. Now I am going to bleed a little bit into a subject you're going to hear more about, I think 2 weeks from now.
Next week,
which is the marketing plan. So you'll see some overlap. The other thing I want to tell you, I have certain expressions or sayings that I really like as an entrepreneur and as an entrepreneurial teacher. So probably my favorite is, as an entrepreneur, you need to listen to everybody but follow nobody. So I'm going to tell you my opinions on what I think is important. I may even talk about the marketing plan, and you have someone else that'll come in next week and talk about the marketing plan, and he may have a very different perspective or a very different focus, and that's okay. Because what you need to do, which I'm so happy that you guys are doing, is you are in the process of listening to people. So listen to everybody, but follow nobody. It's your company, right? You have to follow your vision. So listen, get great input, and figure out which input is helpful to you, use it. Figure out which input is not helpful to you, ignore that, create your own vision. Let's see. Do you see the chat, Kathy? Oh,
I
you
do
do.
see the chat.
So if there are any, if you could
I can
monitor the
monitor
chat.
that for you.
That'd
Yep.
be great. All right, so here's, I know the structure of this session is supposed to be like a half-hour presenting, half-hour questions. I spoke with Kathy. That really doesn't work for me, I guess. So it's gonna be an hour of a conversation. So if you guys have questions, please raise your hands. If you have anything that you need to clarify, I may use, I may say, oh, you gotta be worried about your channel strategy. And if you don't know what I mean by that, please raise your hand or give me some, I don't know, like close one eye and look at me with another eye. And what I'll do is I realize that, let me go back and explain that. So what we're gonna be talking about are these things, but what I want to start us off on is a question. So as an entrepreneur, what is the single most important thing in your lives? The thing that you should wake up thinking about, you should spend your day thinking about, you should go to sleep thinking about, and as entrepreneurs, we'll have dreams and nightmares about. What is the single most important aspect of any entrepreneurial venture? Yeah.
Problem you're solving?
Problem you're solving is good. Problem you're solving is good. Something that's a little bit better. Gee.
The customer?
The customer, right? Without the customer, we don't have a business. So we could solve a problem. And here's the thing. Whose problem should we be solving? Should we be solving, Jeremiah? Customer's problem. Yeah. So we always start, continue, and finish with the customer in mind. Everything that you should do should be faced at figuring out what your customer wants, figuring out how to get that to them, and how you do it better than your competitors. So the first question is, how do you figure out what your customers want? G.
Research.
Okay, what kind of research?
You could maybe look at some of their demographics, like.
Sure, you can do secondary research, do some demographic work, some stuff like that.
Competition.
You can look at your competition. Those are all good answers. There's a better answer though. If you want to figure out what your customers want, what do?
Ask them directly.
Go ask them. Okay? So I actually came up with a new analogy this semester for the first time, and I think it works pretty well. So here's the deal. Don't take offense to this. You are all oxes. You are big, gigantic oxes in a rice field. Right? So if you ever see photos of these gigantic oxes that are pulling a plow behind them as someone plows right? This gigantic creature that is, I don't know, probably a ton. How do they get the ox to move where they want it to? They have a little ring in the nose. They just pull that ring. And wherever that ring goes, the ox goes. So that you control this gigantic animal by putting a ring in its nose and pulling that thing. In this analogy, you guys are the oxes. And your customers would be the farmer that's pulling your ring. Don't be the opposite. Don't think that your customers are oxes and you know better than they do what they want and you're going to lead them to a specific direction. Because as I know Jeremiah knows, that's called having a solution looking for a problem. That is not a good thing. You do not want to have a solution that's looking for a problem. What we're looking for is a problem that needs a solution. And that you're going to come up with the best way to provide that solution better than anybody around you. And the only way that you can do that is to allow your customers to lead you around that rice field like an ox by pulling you in the direction that they want to go. And the way that we do that, the best way to do that is to go talk to customers, ask them questions, and listen. Okay? All right, so I had this wonderful CEO, and he told me this. He told me a couple things that I think are really great. So the one is, your customers will tell you everything you need to know as long as you listen. And I cannot tell you how many entrepreneurs say that. Oh yeah, customers first, the customers first, the customers first. And then they immediately put their blinders on and they go, this is what the customer wants. I know what the customer wants. I'm like the customer, so I know what they want. Don't do that. That's the biggest mistake you could ever make, is assuming that you know. How can I assume that? I know Jeremy. I've had Jeremy in class, so I know what Jeremy wants. That's ridiculous. how could I know what Jeremy wants? Right? If I want to know what Jeremy wants, I go ask him. Right? So you're going to want to always have the customer first. Realize the customer will tell you everything you need to know as long as you listen and follow what they're telling you. So when we talk about that, the thing we're going to figure out is something called a customer segment. So what's the definition of a customer segment? So a customer segment, actually guys, tell me what's a customer segment? I'm a teacher, so I have to present this way. What's a customer segment? Gee.
Is it basically like who you're targeting?
Okay. There are two words up there. What's customer mean? What is your customer? The customer is the person who has money in their pockets that has some problem that you want to solve to get the money out of their pockets and into your pocket. Cool. We all know what a customer is, but the key word there is the second word, segments. What does that mean? Why don't we just say customers? We say customer segments. Why is segment so important?
Different type of customers?
Yes. There are different types of customers. Diana? Diana.
It doesn't matter.
Well, it does to me. So Diana. Like the princess.
Yes.
Yeah, so there are different customer segments. Are we going to serve all customer segments? We are not. Okay. So we want to figure out what's the customer segment that has a pain that we can solve better than anybody else can. Okay. So sometimes we talk about customers, and there's two things I'm going to tell you today it's like entrepreneurship 101 mistakes. Right? We're in the first one. So an investor comes to you and they say, who are your customers? What's a bad answer to that? Who are your customers? Jake?
A bad answer would be everybody.
Everybody would be a really bad answer. Now, it's the answer we think we should provide. Like early entrepreneurs, we go, oh, this is such a great idea. It's everybody. Like everybody will want this. And when you say that, you make a mistake. Because it really is Entrepreneurship 101 mistake. Because if you say everybody, here's what I think. I think of a gigantic dollar sign, right? I would also think of a gigantic clock, okay? So let's put those both together. Let's make a mess out of it. So if you tell me that your customer is everybody, then I'm not interested in your business. Because and this is from an investor perspective. You should always be thinking from an investor perspective. Because investors want a return. You guys want a return. So if you say everybody's my customer, I would say, oh my gosh, do you know how much money you will need to attract everybody? And you know how much time you're going to need to attract everybody? I'm out. Right? So what we want to do is I want you all to do this. Put your hands out like this. This is everybody. And this excuse my grammar at Gannon here, this ain't no good. So what I want you to do, sound effect is optional. Zoop! Zoop! And then look through it at me. All right? Excellent. That's what we want to do. This is everybody. And we go zoop. And that's our niche. And we want to focus on niches. A niche is a small subset of our customer segment that have very specific pains that only we can solve better than anyone. So if you came to me and you said, hey, my business is about everybody. I go, okay, great, what's your idea? You say, it's a website. It's an e-commerce website. You can buy whatever you want on it. You want books, records, you can have it. You want to buy cars, you want to have groceries delivered, you can do that. You want to have electronics shipped to you, excellent. We'll even put a streaming service on it, right? And who am I describing? Amazon.
Walmart.
Okay, fair enough, Walmart. Amazon is already Amazon. Amazon it's a giant. We're David's, right? And as much as that parable was really, it's really nice. 99 out of 100 times, Goliath stomps David into oblivion. So the nice thing about giants, though, is they soak up a lot of sun, and they cast a very large shadow. And what we want to do is we want to be in their shadow, right? We want to be in an area that they're not that interested in. I mean, look, if you think about this, Amazon. What was Amazon's first product? Books. That's it. I'm sure Jeff Bezos said, someday I think Amazon will be able to sell everything. But he didn't start trying to sell everything because he didn't have unlimited money and he didn't have unlimited time. So he said, what's the product that best fits my customers' pains? What do people want? They don't necessarily need to travel for, that they don't have to worry how it fits or how it tastes or how it, and I can store and I don't have to store it in a freezer and I can ship it to them. And he's like, oh, books. Let me do books first. And then he does books, and he's really successful, and he says, what can I do next? Well, what's like books? Well, CDs, DVDs. Let me do that next. And expanded. He started with a niche, and you all need to do that as well. So when we talk about customer segments, we're talking about a niche. And a niche is a small subset of that target audience that has very specific pains that are being underserved by your competitors, and that you can come in and serve better than anybody else, and therefore create like a beachhead. And once you do that, now you can expand. Don't go after Amazon by being an Amazon junior. It'll never work. You're 20 years behind in $1 trillion, right? So we talk about customer segments. These are the different groups of people or organizations that we aim to reach and serve. And we have to make a conscious decision. So Diana, you said, a niche is like there's a bunch of customer segments. So if we look at the whole market, it's everything. That's how Amazon kind of views the world as this, right? And what we need to do is we need to figure out what niche we want to go after. The important thing to know is we not only have to make a conscious decision on what segment or segments to serve, but we also have to make a conscious segment on which segment or segments we're going to ignore. All right? Give me a segment that the Apple iPhone's aimed at. What's a segment? What's a customer segment that the Apple iPhone is aimed at? When we talk about segments, we usually talk about demographics, like ways to describe groups of people, age, gender, religion, ethnicity, disposable income, geographic. Or we talk about psychographics, which is how we feel or believe. So being a Republican or a Democrat, that's a demographic. If you're more conservative or liberal, that's more of a psychographic. So give me a description of who Apple is aimed at with their iPhone.
I would have to say, I think college students would be a good one.
Okay.
Because
college students. Give me a little bit more. College students.
Bloggers.
Bloggers. Okay, good. How do they feel about technology?
They need it.
Just express your head shake.
Yeah, no, I think, and I'm a high school teacher too, so I'd say high schoolers, but I think myself included, people that are interested in technology and apps and development.
Kind of younger, tech savvy, like the social media aspect, want to have a great camera, want to be able to connect seamlessly. Give me a demographic that Apple knows exists, but they ignore.
People who are more oriented towards like power, because phones are more like user experience and easy use.
Yeah. So Apple, in fact, the back of Apple iPhones, it used to say designed by Apple in Cupertino, California, made in China. So Apple doesn't even make the iPhone. What they really do is they design it. It's about user experience. It's about simplicity. But when you have simplicity, you give up power. So they've decided to ignore that. If you want power, you use a PC. You want simplicity, you use a Mac. All right? So we have to identify not only the target segments we want to go after, but we need to consciously make a decision to say, not going to go after them, or not going to go after them initially. So sometimes, let me finish with this, sorry. So we may have different customer segments. We don't necessarily have to have one, but it's not everybody. So it might be Zoop and Zoop, like 2 of them, right? Like maybe high school students and college students that are tech savvy. They're close enough that we can do both of them, but we're not going to do octogenarians. You know, people in their 80s that have no, you know, they're losing their eyesight and need a phone that has 3 buttons. That's not what the Apple iPhone is. So we may have different customer segments if their needs justify a distinct offer or a different flavor. We got vanilla and we got French vanilla. And I always like scratch my head, like, why do you need to have vanilla and French vanilla? And the answer is because some customers like vanilla and some customers like French vanilla. Well, that's the great answer. That's the customer leading that ice cream manufacturer by their nose. If they're reached through different channels, so when I say channel, so channel is a way to get something from point A to point B or communicate something from point A to point B. So if you think about channels, it's almost like a clock. And it starts at, I got to market my idea. I got to make sure people know that I even exist. Marketing channel. 3 o'clock. Now I got to close that sale. What's my sales channel? 6 o'clock. Now I need to deliver that product to them. What's my distribution channel? 9 o'clock. How do I service my customers? That's my customer service channel. Then back to 12. Marketing, sales, delivery, service. Marketing, sales, delivery, service. Marketing, sales, delivery, service. Those are your channels. So if you reach people through different channels, like if you're going after, I'm 53, I'm not on Facebook. I have no social media. But if you want to go after my wife, go after her on Facebook. Right? My daughter's 20. If you want to go after her, Instagram, Snapchat. My son's 17, TikTok. Right? Different channels. There are different relationships. Okay, here's the takeaway. Niche, 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 niche. Okay? That's what you got to focus on. What's your niche? Because you need to have a niche. And a lot of times at this point, people ask me, like, well, how do I pick my niche? And that's a really tough question because your businesses are all different. So I'm going to kind of punt on it. I'm going to say this. Find the person that will give you their money the fastest. That's the niche that you focus on initially. Okay? So has anybody here ever had a headache? Raise your hands. Awesome. If you had a headache, I had a pill in my pocket that was $200. Would you buy the pill to get rid of your headache?
No.
No. Who here has ever had a migraine? Yeah, and if you don't know if you've ever had a migraine, you've never had a migraine. It's basically 6 hours of hell. Television, everything goes red on me, like I see everything that's in shades of red. I get tunnel vision, which makes me nauseous. And just as the incredible pain is starting, I start to throw up. Really awesome. Now, if you've had a migraine, you started that migraine and someone said, I have a pill for $200 to take it away. Would you spend it?
Absolutely.
In a second, I would. If I had it, I would. That's the difference between a good niche and a great niche. You want someone who's paying their need. So in marketing, you hear need, want, and desire. I refer to that as pain. I'm saying the exact same thing. I use the term pain, and pain can be a good thing. Like a pain for me is I don't like vanilla ice cream. I like Coffee Toffee Crunch, Ben & Jerry's Coffee Toffee Crunch, which the West Side Wegmans no longer carry, so now I have to go to the Giant Eagle on 12th Street just to get my Coffee Toffee Crunch from Ben & Jerry's. That's a migraine pain in a good way. Like I literally will not go to Wegmans now. I go to what is that?
Giant Eagle.
Giant Eagle on 12th Street because they have it. Okay. Niche, 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 niche. What's the customer that has the most extreme amount of pain? That as soon as you start talking about your idea, they're finishing your sentences, and they're like, "How do I sign up? How can I be part of your beta group? How can I be part of your first group of customers?" Okay. All right. Next is something called a value proposition. So customers and have pains, needs, wants, desires, pains. So a customer segment has a very specific set of needs, wants, desires, and pains. So everybody has headaches. Only a few people have migraines. So everybody's not going to pay $200 for a pill. People with the migraines will. So Customer segments have very distinct customer segments have very distinct pains. And what we want to do is we create something called a value proposition. And I remember learning about this, and for years it confused the heck out of me because it was like this really vague term, like what the heck is a value proposition? And I didn't realize how simple it could be. So here's what a value proposition is. It is just the bundle, that's the key word there, the bundle of products and services that you create to solve that very specific pain for those very specific customers. So Starbucks. Starbucks is a great example. What does Starbucks sell? And I hope someone disagrees with what I'm going to say. So, what does Starbucks sell? Coffee.
Fufu coffee.
Coffee, and I love it because I wouldn't agree. Starbucks sells an experience.
I was just going to say that.
Coffee's just a part of it. You don't call them servers, you call them baristas. Who's got an order? Who's a Starbucks junkie? Give me your order.
Double tall caramel macchiato, extra hot with whip.
Yeah, that's like a foreign language to me. I don't understand that. What size?
Tall.
Tall. What is tall? No, sorry. What's grande? What?
That's like medium.
Yeah, why don't they call it small, medium, large? Why don't they call baristas servers? Sorry, it's more of a rhetorical question. And here's the answer.
I used to work there, so that's what I was going to answer.
But when it's the smells. It's like where's your coffee made at McDonald's? In the back where you can't see it and you can't hear it and you can barely smell it because you don't want to see it. Where does Starbucks make their coffee? Right out in front of you. So you can hear it, so you can smell it, it's the whole thing. Right? That is a value proposition. They sell an experience, and it's aimed at a target audience. It's aimed at like high school, college students that want to study in business, men and women that are kind of want to have an office away from home. Their experience is come, sit down, stay away. Compare that 10, 15 years ago. Remember all the McDonald's is? Hard plastic. Horrible colors. None of the seats move, none of the tables move. Easy to clean up. And it says, come here, sit for a little bit, and then get the heck out of here. That's different than what Starbucks says, right? So the value proposition is a bundle of products and services that all come together to solve your specific customer's pains for your specific customer segment, all right? And that's the reason why we choose one business over another. I go to, if I want to have something hot to drink, I go to Tim Hortons. Because Tim Hortons makes one of the best hot chocolates there is. Starbucks is horrible. My wife can't stand Tim Hortons coffees. She only likes Starbucks. So whenever we go get something to drink, we gotta wait in line twice. Right? Because for me, my target segment is Tim Hortons. I don't like coffee. I like hot chocolate. Hers is about coffee. If you want to have coffee, you go to Starbucks. Someone have a hand up? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's crazy that you're talking about Starbucks and their value proposition because I had their pumpkin spice latte for the first time this season.
Yeah.
And I think there's drugs in it because I kept going back because it was so good. I thought the hype behind it was like, okay, people just said whatever. But then once I had it, it really did. They got a lot of my money this season. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, they got it. So it's
and how much do you pay for your what's your could you give us your order again?
It's like $6.
$6. Right?
I bet you're a gold card carrying member.
Yeah.
Good girl.
Well, you could go to like a diner. You got a coffee for like $1.50.
Tastes like burnt cigarette juice.
So like that. Now there are a lot of people that love that burnt cigarette juice. But there are a lot of people that like that burnt cigarette juice, or at least the price of that burnt. It's a different niche.
I was gonna say that's a different customer segment also.
Right. So Starbucks doesn't compete with Panos restaurant. If you guys are from the local, that's the only one I can remember. Panos is like I don't know if it's still around.
It is.
A diner. And Panos doesn't really compete against Starbucks, really. They do, but they don't. All right. So that's a value proposition, right? It's the bundle of benefits. I want you to remember that word. It's a bundle. It's a bundle. It's a bundle. It's a bundle. It's your products and services in your entire experience Next time you go to Starbucks, drink in the experience. See how everything is planned. Another great one, go to a casino. Casinos are brilliant, especially in Vegas. You will never see a clock. You will never see the outside. The temperature's cool, so you stay awake. They pump in oxygen, so you stay awake. They give you free drinks, so your mouth gets fuzzy. And try to go from one end of the casino using their signs to go find another part of the casino, because they intentionally get you lost. Where? In the middle of the gaming area. So you're like, oh, there's where the buffet is. Oh, the buffet, and all of a sudden you're like, where the heck is the buffet? Well, you're in the middle of the gaming section. It's not by accident, right? That's planned. That's value proposition. I got to a certain degree. All right, here's what we want. We do not want to fight fair. I don't want a fair fight. I want an unfair fight. That's business. Business is about creating an unfair fight. I'm not saying that we're ever doing anything illegal. I also don't say that we do anything that's unethical. I'm talking about completely legal, completely ethical, unfair fight. Right? You know what Amazon wants you to do? They want you to fight fair against them, so that they can Goliath smash your David. What you want to do is you want to duck behind them. Like hit him in the ankle. I have a new puppy. Every time, 6 months old, every time you walk, the puppy's behind you and she grabs the back of your knee, trying to take you down. I'm like, that's not fair. She's looking at me, she's like, you're gigantic. Why would I want to fight you fair? I'm this little puppy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you walk past and think you're okay, and then I'm going to come behind you and I'm going to tap you on the back of the knee. Right? So that's fair. It's legal. Ethical. So we don't want a fair fight, and the way we create unfair fights is we focus on our niche. It has very distinct problems, and then we seek to solve them better than anybody else can. You don't fight Amazon by going and beat Amazon. You figure out an area that they aren't that good, or they don't care that much about it, and that's what we go after. Right? We create an unfair fight. Okay, any questions on that? All right. Trying to judge time here. Okay. Part of what I was asked to talk about is once you've determined your niche, and you figured out what, by talking to your niche, even talking to a bunch of customers to figure out where your niche is. You figure your niche, figure out what their pains are, then you create a value proposition to do that. The next thing you got to do is now you got to go into business plan mode. And business plan is a sales and marketing document. So there's an acronym ABC. Always be closing. It's a sales acronym. What that means is everything you say, everything you do is about closing the deal to get their money out of their pockets into your pockets. And I don't mean that in a greed is good, Wall Street, like you hate your customers. You can't hate your customers. You gotta love your customers. You gotta care about your customers. You want them to be better. And you just happen to have a better solution for them. So why wouldn't you give it to them? Okay? So part of the business plan, though, is sales document. So if you're going to talk about your product and service, bear with me on my drawing here. Okay. So what you want to do is now this is business plan. And this is the beginning of this. Oh, that's not going to work. Okay, this is the beginning of kind of your product or service description, and this is the end. Okay, of this section. This section might be, I don't know, 2-3 pages long. But when you start it, you want it to be very emotional. You want to have the reader have a visceral response. If you're talking about food, you want them to actually drool. If you're talking about something sad, you want to have them have tears in their eyes. I'm talking about eliciting an emotional response. So we kind of take that concept and we say, kind of these blue lines kind of is emotion. You start off highly emotional. Highly emotional. And then as time goes on, you go more to intellectual. Okay? So this is all about heart. Okay? And then down here, at the end, it's going to be a horrible drawing. That's a brain, okay? That's a brain. So we want to start with heart, right? And we want to lead with heart. We want to push on heart. So I want to share with you an example of something a student did in my fall class, which is a pretty good example. So students worked on a business idea that was all about hold on one second. What's that? Oh. Let me come back to this actually, because this isn't going to work the way I want it. Okay, so let's come back to this. Okay, so we want to start with heart. So the best thing that I always suggest is when you're writing your business plan, put the reader immediately into the shoes of your customer. Imagine you're a college student. Imagine you're a high school senior, right? And you've worked now for 12 years to finally make it to college, right? You're not sure if your grades are good enough. You're not sure if your SATs are good enough. And the biggest thing you've got to do is you've got to figure out how to write this amazing essay. You talk to all these other people that get in these great schools, and they're talking about how great their essays are, but you're worried. So what you want to, so what you're doing is you're kind of setting the pain and putting your customer into the mindset of seeing the pain, the reader of the business plan into your customer's shoes and seeing the pain the way they see it. Very emotional. Right, kind of in the middle here, what you want to do is, so you talk about the pain. You say, this is the pain. This is how it feels. And you may forget it. So you got to put them in that position and go, yeah, that sounds horrible. I wouldn't want that. And then the next thing you do is you trot out your competitors. You say, sure, you could go to this place and this place and this place and this place, but they all stink. So for me, that's a bus. And what you want to do, you want to take your competitor and you want to throw them under that bus. And I'm sorry about this, but okay. And you want to roll over them on the bus, and then you want to back up and roll over them again, and then back up and go over and back and forth and back and forth. So when you're talking about so first you do is you talk about this emotional pain you have. Then you try out your competitors. You say, sure, you could do this, but why would you want to give that crappy solution? Or you could do this, but that's horrible. You do this, and it's again from a certain segment's perspective, what their specific pains are. You are showing that these competitors aren't any good. And if the competitors are better than you, probably shouldn't be in that business. Right? Or you got to, what we call pivot. You got to pivot a little bit. So I'm going towards Diana, and I realize I'm trying to get to G. I'm like, oh, this isn't right, so I pivot. I don't go all the way back and start over again. I kind of take my idea and go, oh, no, this isn't for the Dianas in the world, it's for the Jeremys in the world. I pivot now more towards him. Who's telling me this? The customer is. Okay? So we start with that heart. We say, this is the pain. Man, that sounds horrible. And here are the competitors. Run them over, run them over, run them over. And then the end of it is That's the cavalry. You guys are the cavalry. You come riding in to save that pain. Right? So first we start very emotional, very visceral. This is the pain. Heart, heart, heart. Don't hit me here. Beep, 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 beep. Hit me here. Hit me here. If you hit me here in the beginning, you're not going to get the response you want. Hit me here first. Get me involved. Then talk about the competitors and not very nice words. That's somewhere in between. And talk about your solution at a very high level, how it solves it better than anybody else. That's a little bit up here. Boop, 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 boop. Then you get into the marketing plan, which is all beep, 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 beep. Okay? So, 7 o'clock, right?
7-ish. We actually go to 7:30 just in case.
Okay. We're going to 7:30. Okay. So, I just want to share with you an example. I don't know if we'll go to 7:30, but it's like that a little bit more time. Okay, so this is an example of a business plan that a student wrote, where what they're trying to do is they're trying to create something called, the company's called Port Flow, and it's a business that's aimed at colleges, right? Like their student services, where they help their current students and alumni get jobs. So they have resumes and resume workshops, and what their idea is, we should create an online portfolio that the student can have and have their own unique URL that they could give to an employer, and the employer can see not only their resume, but maybe some examples of a business plan that they wrote or a presentation that they gave, and it's kind of a fuller marketing document. So that's the general idea. So here's their detailed service description. I apologize, but I'm going to read it to you a little bit. Imagine you were going to your first interview. You're thinking about how good you look, your snazzy suit, sharp pants, favorite tie, and shiny shoes. You have your briefcase with the perfect resume and the cover letter that you've developed in resume building workshops at your college. You know this could be the job you've dreamed about your whole life after working countless hours toward getting your college degree. Nothing in the world can stop the amount of confidence that is building up inside of you right now. Finally, you walk through the doors of the building where the interview is. The first thing you see is 10 other people in the waiting room that look just like you. All of them are dressed up amazingly with their briefcases and fancy shoes. All of them are going for that same job that you are. Confusion, sweat, and nervousness are what you are feeling at this moment. So you decide to walk quickly into the bathroom before checking in. You're in the bathroom looking at yourself in the mirror, and you say to yourself, I am the same as everyone else in that room. All the time and effort that you've spent in school working towards this opportunity seems worthless, and you're wondering if you're unique at all. I'm going to kind of stop there. That's not beep, 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 beep. That's here. That's here. That's putting the reader, like, I'm 53. I don't remember at 53 what it's like to interview until this story comes out, and I go, oh, yeah, I remember that. Right? You're like, dang, everybody's got the same suit on. Everybody's got the Brooks Brothers suit on, or whatever it is. Put them in the shoes of your reader. Put your reader in the shoes of your customer, sorry. Then they throw their competitors under the bus. Let me see if I can just get a couple of them. They talk about their competitors. Like, yeah, you could use this website building app, but it's not very user-friendly, and it's not aimed at colleges at all. Or you could use this other website building app, but it costs you this amount of money. And what they're doing is they're setting the stage for their value proposition, for the horses to come riding in. So they talk about the pain, and they go, you could use this, but it stinks because of A. You could do this, but that stinks because of B, and this because it stinks because of C. And guess what? Here's our solution, Port Flow. And guess what we do? A, B, and C. Better for their target customers and their target pains. All right? Any questions on that?
I guess I have a question.
Yep.
To go into such a personal story to me, I feel like I've been like wired not to do that. Like
Yeah.
that would be unprofessional. Where's the line get drawn? Or is it just throw the rules out the door and?
No, I don't think you can ever just throw the rules out. You gotta know what the rules are, and you do have to play within them.
Jeremiah has a story and he doesn't like to tell it anymore. I put you on the spot.
It's a good story. It's
But
the
it's a
one
good
that you help
story.
me prepare. But at the end of the day, I guess it's kind of what she alluded to, is like expressing your vulnerability.
Yeah.
And, I think that part of it.
Well, I think what you're doing is I understand what you're saying. So these students have faced this situation, so they're experts in it.
Yeah.
So by you sharing, like I know, Sarah, you talked about what your business idea is based on your background.
Yeah.
And we talked, and I said, well, you obviously know what you're talking about. You dealt with that quite a bit. I'm sure you've got horror stories.
Absolutely.
Tell them.
Okay.
Because I may intellectually get why vendor, OEM to manufacturer relationships are tough. I really don't understand them.
You would understand if I said, hey, it's 5 o'clock on Friday and you're getting ready to go home for the day.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you realize that what you made was out of the wrong material. And you gotta call the customer.
And I'm going further. That's it. And you just spent the last 18 months and part of your retirement to fund this business, right? And you are in debt. You have investors that are calling. You have employees that depend on. Really lean into the pain. Okay. And at 5 p.m. on a Friday, when everybody's gone, you realize you just potentially wasted $150,000 worth of raw materials.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do next? Right? Do I tell my spouse that the job that I just killed her life savings? You could go, that might be a little bit far. I would do that, but you need to be comfortable. You would just tell the story of your customer segment. It's not your story. It's the story that your customers are going through.
Right.
So my business was software. I could tell you stories that every software business person goes through that you would like it's 5 minutes before the pitch on a
I already know where you're going.
yeah, on a proof of concept that you worked a year to get in the door, 6 months to close, just to get to this point. It's 5 minutes before the pitch, and your tech person goes to pull up your website, and they get an error 404.
Yeah.
Like, oh, holy crap, that's hard. Well, you could use this solution, which is horrible, and this solution, which is horrible, but here's the solution that we have that's going to take your depth of despair into the height of excitement.
Personally, I relate to the flow of that.
Yeah.
It's just some of the direction that I've gotten that's like a unique perspective for me.
Yeah.
But it resonates with me because it's authentic, right?
It is authentic.
I think it also depends on your investors, because if you're trying to pitch this, or an investor is reading your plan and they don't know anything about your business. For example, my business is going to be a local health and wellness focused nail studio. But if it's some guy who doesn't know anything about nails, if you put that personal part in there, they'll be able to apply it to maybe, my daughter's been getting this done on her nails for so many years, and now I know it's not good.
Yeah.
This is something that's needed.
I
I guess it just depends on, you gotta know, I don't know.
I
It's like
like
an
it.
art form to word it properly, so it's not overly personal, but at the same time, it's needed. It will give people that push to understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, I would say don't be sappy. Don't be a cliche. But you said vulnerable. Be vulnerable, or allow your reader to understand the vulnerabilities of your customer.
Okay.
Because Diana, if you said to me, "Hey, Kurt, you want to invest in a nail salon?" You may have already noticed. Like, I've never been to a nail salon. But if you started to tell me, you're like, it's a health and fitness based. And let me tell you about this story. Someone who got something done and it wasn't done correctly, and they ended up with a nail infection. Instead of going to the prom, they had to go to the emergency room. I have a daughter who's 20. Okay, 2 years ago she went to. Okay, I can understand that.
Right.
If you tell it to me the way she would see it, I don't have to be a 53-year-old guy. I can be an 18-year-old girl and see it through their eyes. I think it's, I personally think, you gotta listen to everybody, or nobody.
Yeah.
I think it's extremely important, I think it's critical to put your readers into the shoes of your customer so that they can see the world not intellectually. Oh yeah, I can see where maybe a natural, and I don't mean this way it's gonna sound, but I can kind of see why a holistic and natural nail salon might be interesting. Now you put me into a scenario where I go, oh, I gotta watch my words. This word again. Darn, that sounds horrible. Now you've got me engaged. And what you've done is, instead of me doing this and like figuring out where I wanna look, you've taken my head, and you've gone like, look here. This is the customer I'm working with. This is the pain that they have. Here are the customers, here are the competitors and why their solutions are horrible. And here's why mine is gonna be successful. And the one thing I would say, Sarah, is, Mark Cuban, Lori, Mr. Wonderful.
Shark Tank?
Shark Tank. Go watch Shark Tank. Because, you know, Shark Tank is, I believe Shark Tank is extremely accurate in the way they go through things.
Okay.
So Shark Tank, they don't immediately go and say, here's my solution. Let me tell you about the solution that I have. It's going to be great. It's the way you can do nails better.
Yeah.
Right? They don't talk about how much money I want. If you look at the sequence of it, the people get up there and they talk about the problem first. Because if the sharks don't understand that, if they don't connect with the problem, they're like, I'm out. I'm like, I'm not into my nail, whatever they want to say. I'm not into my nails. I don't know that industry. I'm out. What they're saying is, I don't see the pain. I don't see that it's big enough. And I don't understand it.
Yeah.
So the first thing they do is they take so watch Shark Tank, just a couple episodes, a couple segments. It's the same formula. Here's the problem. Here's how other people don't do it. Here's how we solve it. Cool. If they believe that, the sharks, the next set of questions are, tell me about your customers. Because the sharks may think it's a good idea. But I can't tell you, Sarah, if your idea is good or bad. And unfortunately, neither can you. Who's the only person that can tell you if your idea is good or bad? Customers. So the next thing is about validation. And I'm not going to validate it, and you're not going to validate it. If you got a bunch of customers, that's been validated. How many customers? When did you get them? What's your total sales? How much in the last 6 months? We did 20 million in sales. Cool. What'd you do in the last 6 months? $20,000. Oh, okay. This is a dying product.
Yeah.
How much have you done in sales? 300,000. How much did you do in the last 6 months? 250. And we did 150 in the last 30 days. Oh, okay. I want to ride this pony. Makes sense. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, it makes complete sense.
Thank you. I thought that was great. Okay. All right, next one is market analysis. This is now we're kind of moving into, now we're moving out of the heart. We've gone from the heart to the brain, now we're going to stay in the brain. Okay? And this is your marketing plan. What goes into your marketing plan is at the top, marketing research. Both secondary research, which is research that's already been written and exists out there, and primary research, which is your own research. So if you're going to be an entrepreneur, the easiest one to get is secondary research. Get those articles, get those industry, find the industry that you're in, and find a trade association that's part of that industry. Sign up for that trade association and ask them for whatever information they can give you. That's all secondary data. That's pretty good. Poor entrepreneurs stop there. Good entrepreneurs take that as a jumping point to do their own primary research, which means your customers will tell you everything you need to know as long as you listen. Go ask them. Go talk to them. Carnegie Mellon has an accelerator. It's called Project Olympus. It's unique in that it is not time-based like what you guys are doing here. It's milestone-based. So what they do is, the first thing they do is they bring people like you in, entrepreneurs, they bring them in and they say, cool, here's your idea and here's your target segment. And then they say, go talk to, how many customers do you think you need to talk to before you have a good realization of what your product should be? What do you guys think? It's been research that's been done. How many customers do you think you need to talk to before you get a real sense what they want? Give me a guess.
30.
1,000.
Okay. Somewhere between 30 and 1,000. The magic number is 100. right? You should talk to at least 100 people. And you're not talking to 100 people at one time. It's like you talk to 10, and you go back and you rethink things. Then you go talk to another 10 and rethink things, and another 10, and another 10, and another, and they're gonna push you, they're gonna pull you like that ox, right? First, it's gonna be big pulls that are like really broad, right? But as you go down, it's like a toilet or tornado, it's like a tornado, let's go with that one. It's wide at the top, but as you go down, it tightens up. At the beginning of your marketing research, it's really wide. Do you ever get your nails done? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? Versus, hey, what do you think about a natural nail salon that provide, you want to start really broad so people self-select and tell you the problems that they have, not the problems you think they have. Broad, 10, tighter 10, tighter 10, tighter. And the very last 10, you're actually talking about, here's my product, here's my service, here's my pricing, here's my logo, feedback, feedback, feedback. You start with the problem, you end with feedback on the problem, then you end with feedback on the solution. Okay. So 100. So Carnegie Mellon says, hey, yeah, I got a great idea. Cool. Go talk to 100 customers and don't come back until you do. That's how important they think it is. It's also a really good measure of how serious you are as an entrepreneur. So if you're like 100 customers, they're like, okay, we will never see you again. That will be too soon. You got the other people that are like 1 week later, like, here's my 100 customers. I did 150. Here's the results. Here's where I am. Oh, you're serious. Let's go to the next step. Okay, market research comes in, and then it's an inverted triangle. Market analysis is the broadest. Competitors, mid, and then the 4 Ps, which is the 4 Ps of marketing, which is price, product, place, and promotion. And this is what you're going to be talking about a little bit more next week. So let's start with the top one. So, it is an inverted pyramid, or a triangle. Here, it's split into 3. The first one is industry. Second is competitors. And then we have the 4 Ps. Okay? So, with the industry, the first thing that I'm going to encourage you guys to do is figure out what your NAICS code is. NAICS. Rhymes with snakes. It's called NAICS, North American Industry Classification System. They used to be called, doesn't matter what they used to be called. They're now called NAICS. So North American Industry Classification System, it's a number. You can go right now. You can go right now and search. I'm going to do it right now. So, Diana. Yeah. Salon. NAICS code. 812113. All right, that's how long it took me to look it up. 812113. That is the NAICS code for nail salons. It is, once you have your NAICS code, you can gather a lot of information based on that NAICS code.
Thanks for doing that for me.
You're welcome. High level, right? High level. Like I'm sure there's got to be a crafts beer. There's. And if you can't find the exact one, find ones that are tangential. Okay. So you can now look up. There's a lot of like if you go to like the public library and you do a secondary research, like you're on the computer looking for articles, there'll be something in there that says NAICS code. You type in your NAICS code, it'll give you all the articles related to the nail salon. And you can just kind of click through and go, I don't need that, I don't need that. That's one's really interesting, let me save that. Don't care, that's interesting, let me save that. Okay?
Is that the NAICS code for where you're trying to go into, or is that the NAICS code for where you're trying to sell it to?
I would say they're the same.
The software is 522 blah blah blah.
Oh, yeah.
And manufacturing.
I would do both.
Okay.
I would do both. I would understand what it, like if your software as a service,
yeah,
then you want to look at the NAICS code for SaaS. We also want to look at the NAICS code for plastic manufacturers or whatever it is, whatever your niche is.
Yeah. So
you can get both. Because here's the deal. Unfortunately, here's the truth. Want to hear the truth? I'm going to tell you the truth. Nobody cares about this. except everybody wants to see it in there, okay? So what they want to see is how big is the industry, how fast is it growing, and what are the trends? So you're going to say, for example, Diana, the nail salon industry is a $2.3 billion industry. And it's growing at 1.2% a year. And the trends are corporate, I don't know, whatever. And it doesn't really matter what it says. But someone's want to know it. How big, and are you going to get that? Whatever I said. Are you going to have a small piece of that 1.2 billion? So what does the 1.2 billion really mean? It doesn't really mean anything. It just means, here's what they want to know. It's a really big industry. Hopefully it's growing by a lot. And here are some trends that work with what I'm trying to do. But here's the best thing. If you don't have trends that work for you, you just spin it. Right, so if you're in the fast food industry and you're coming up, like, you want to create something called a heart attack burger. Triple meat, onion rings, French fries on buns, and then deep fried with an Oreo wrapping on it. And the trend is in the restaurant industry is that they're going towards healthy food. You say, hey, the trend's healthy food. I'm going counter trend. So an entrepreneur is all being about. Yeah, everybody's going for this, but if everybody's going for this, someone's going to want the counter to it, which is the heart attack burger. So a little bit of BS, but you got to play the game. What's that?
I got some.
Okay. No, but it's a little bit of BS because it's a 1.2 billion industry. What does that have to do with the nail salon here in Erie? Except that people are going to go, well, what's your industry and how big it is? If you don't know the answer, you're like, that's a $1.2 billion industry. Going 1.2%. Here are the trends. They go, okay, next question. Like, you know your stuff. Okay, so what we're talking about is.
Kurt?
Yes.
Did you want me to interject at this moment?
Yeah, give me 1 second. Size, growth rates, and trends. And fortunately for you guys, you're part of this session. And you're part of a set of organizations that support entrepreneurs. So you don't have to come up with the $20,000 for something called Ibis World because
we have it in our Beehive, which is a free offering that we give to everybody. So with the startup capital best practice and kind of talking with you, we can actually do the industry reports for you once you get your information because we have that feature in the Beehive.
So if you get Kathy or someone that Kathy will give you, the NAICS codes, they'll run the reports and send them to you. And the NAICS, it's Ibis World, capital I, capital B, capital I, capital S, World. But it costs like $5,000 a year to get it. So that doesn't help entrepreneurs, except for an organization that supports entrepreneurs that have it already. It is exactly what you need. It is exactly what you need. It's going to give you a sigh. It's amazing. You're going to be weeping with joy.
Yeah, they even now have not only information about your industry, but also how COVID is affecting that industry. They have reports on that too now. So.
Yeah, it's the real deal. It's the finest, I think, the finest research product.
You can get lost pretty easy in that, just going and reading all this stuff.
And what's really nice is they have a bunch of graphs. You can just right-click, copy, and paste, source it in your business plan and go, here's what it is, Ibis World. No one's going to argue with Ibis World. It's like no one got fired for buying IBM. It's such a safe to say, no one's going to do, where'd you get that from? Ibis World. Oh, okay. You got a question?
Yeah, just to go off the whole Beehive thing, like being like a Beehive client or whatever, it was really fortunate to me to get the NSAC numbers and codes because I took an economics class over the summer and I had to like physically look through all these different databases and like sometimes like you said, there's older ones, there's newer ones, and it basically just like fried my brain a little bit. So I'm just like what am I looking for? For you guys about all that was beautiful.
And the thing that as entrepreneurs, and I say young entrepreneurs, I don't mean age. I mean in the
Early in your business.
I'm sorry?
Early in your business?
Yes. You have to be, consumer of data would be light. You have to be gluttonous about about what you got to get your hands on, everything you can read, everything you can look at. You have to build an amazing database in here so that you can start with your knowledge that's specific, start connecting dots between all that information in a way that only you can do that because of the amount of data you put in your head and as well as your experiences, you marry them together and it's hard to beat. Okay, the next thing is competition. So the competition is very specific. I happen to like a very simple tool, it's called a competitive matrix. And I would encourage you guys to consider it because it's very simple and it's very powerful. So a competitive matrix exactly kind of what it sounds like. Okay? So this is you. This is your company. Okay? This is competitor 1, competitor 2, competitor 3, competitor 4. Okay? If you have specific names, like Diana, depending on where you're going to be, probably in your geography, you'd want to identify specific names. It could be even people that compete with you on the same type of thing that you're doing. What you can also do is you can put them into categories. Probably less for you. So like, for example, I had a student that was working on a wedding venue. There was this barn that was built in the 1820s and it was called Barn Bridge. It was going to be this like country chic. So like hay and a barn, but then crystal and china. Like this real unique mix. And what they did is they identified their competitors. Some of them were very specific, like Peak and Peak, where there's a place just over the New York border, which it's like a winery that does weddings. So that was a really specific one. But then they grouped other ones. And they did it in such a beautiful way because they threw them under the bus. They said generic big box hotels. That was the name of their competitors.
Oh.
You don't even need to read any further. Yeah, it's totally disrespectful, right? And because she was fighting unfair. Because those were beautiful wedding venues, but not for her target audience that wanted something unique and memorable and chic and country, right? As good as the Ambassador Hotel is or the Marriott, they're none of those words, okay? All right, and then what you do up here, these are your competitors. Up here is your value proposition. What's that bundle of services? So like her value proposition was 1821 barn venue. Who else is going to be able to check that box? Nobody. That's her purpose because it was completely unique. So then what you do here is these are the elements of your value proposition, whatever they are. And again, you want them to be marketing. You want it to be kind of market jargonish. You want it to almost be like a soundbite. 100% sophisticated elegance. I don't know, whatever it is. Something that you can boom. When you're talking about why would you go to Barnbridge? Well, 100% rustic elegance. 1820s barn. It's like those. Like if I was trying to sell you guys on to go there, I'm not going to say, well, it's got a bar and it's got a parking lot. Right? You want to go with your value proposition. Why should I go to Starbucks? We have a sit and stay for a while atmosphere. We have coffee house expertise. That's your value proposition. And the key here is to do this. Is to do this. Yep. And then down below, maybe here. Yeah, they got that one. And then again, it's always, ABC, always be closing. And 2, throw them under the bus. Don't just leave it like that. Put big red X's. In the areas where people don't have what you have. Or sometimes, even better, just leave them blank. And your business in the competitive matrix, because here's the guy, you should have every box checked because you are focusing on a specific customer segment with a very specific pain, and therefore your value proposition is uniquely aimed at solving that. So check, 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 check. Everybody else found wanting. Super simple, great visual, easy to pitch, easy. It gives you so much. Here's our competitors. Here's our value proposition. Here's how we compete against them. This is why we're better for. It's so useful. Yes.
I got a question, and it might be more relevant for my pitch than the business plan itself, but essentially the pitch is encapsulating that. I find that my product is applicable to 3 different industries. And when I'm making my competitive matrix, as it stands right now, it's only relevant to 1.
Okay.
And let's say I have 3 large market competitors, being Rosetta Stone for translation services, LinkedIn for employment-related services, and Infinity Resources for staffing agencies. Like, those are the 3 that I feel I'm relevant to.
Okay.
Should I make 3 different competitive matrices, or make 1 with the most important feature from each that they're missing?
Jeremiah, what I would say is if you have 3 distinct offerings, that would worry me.
You say, like, that could be a byproduct of me not niching down enough. Is that what
Or
you're
maybe you've over-niched.
Okay.
Right? But if you have to create 3 competitive, this is what my gut tells me. Listen, everybody, follow my voice.
Right.
My gut tells me that's not a good sign.
Okay.
Because if you're creating 3 different competitive matrices, that means there's probably 3 different value propositions.
Yes.
Which is no longer a niche. It's a little bit
broad.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I'd be looking for is the things that cut across those 3 areas.
Okay.
That would be the same. Like generic. I want to go have a coffee in Rome, but not ask anything more serious. Conversations, software, language tool. That's way too long. But you get the point. Like tourist-focused language apps. And hopefully you bring it up enough that would work for all 3 of them. Okay. And the last one's the 4 Ps. I'm not going to talk. I'm really not going to talk about that because other than it's. Yeah, there's one. Here are the 4 Ps. Okay, it's your marketing mix. Oh, it's your marketing mix. So it's all about marketing. What is your product? So before in your product description, it's all heart. It's about the pain and how horrible that pain is, and I can't believe how horrible that pain is, and I wouldn't want to do that. And then here are these solutions, and that sounds worse, and then that sounds even worse. That sounds even worse than the first 2. Here we are at a high level. That's your product description. This is details. I want to know the features of your software, right? Your options, your brand name, your packaging, your sizes. I want to know how many tables you'll have. I want to know if they're unique chairs, why they're unique, like details. The product description is all heart. Boom, 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 we're done. This is beep, 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 beep. This is the details. I want to know all the details.
So I have a question. I just want to make sure I understand it. So when you're talking about like chairs, for example, using a podiatry chair for a dry pedicure for a health-focused nail salon is better. I mean, that's something I would want to put in there because it's not something you typically find at a nail salon.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's what makes you unique. And this is the details.
Not pedicure chair. Did I say podiatry chair?
You said podiatry.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
And I don't even know what that, I mean, I do know what that means, but I don't know what that means, but I know enough to say yes.
Okay.
Because that's unique.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if you would put podiatry chairs, maybe you would, podiatry chairs in your competitive matrix as a value proposition. That might be a little bit too, but maybe you expand it a little bit. You could have like ergonomically correct equipment, which includes the chairs and with everything, right? But here you're going to say, well, yeah, we're going to use these chairs, like the Petaflex 3000. Right? We're going to have the features, options, style, packages. Place is all about marketing. What's your marketing channels? Where are you going to be located? Where are you going to store inventory? Promotion is how you're going to advertise.
So this is the subject, but I would actually put specifically.
You would.
I'm confused.
So you do industry. Here's how big the industry is. growth trends. Here's our competitors. Here's why we're better than all of them. And here's specifically how we're going to basically think about it as how I'm going to go to market. If I said to you, Diane, how are you going to go to market? You're not going to say, oh, the industry is 1.2 billion. And you're not going to say, well, here are my competitors. You're going to say, I'm going to get a retail space there. And here's the reasons why. And I'm going to put into that retail space these things. And it's going to have, like Starbucks. It's the cushiony chairs. You can it's the tables that have plugs in them. It's the colors on the walls. They're all browns.
So this is more of the specifics.
Details on this.
Okay.
And it's the details of your marketing plan. So we call it the marketing mix. It's just you don't necessarily have to, you could do this. I mean, I encourage my students to actually talk about the product, have a section on product, place, promotion, and price. So like here, I want to know what your prices are. I want to, in this section, I want to say, when you talk about the pain, I don't need to know price, that's here. I just need to know the horror stories. I go, oh, okay, yeah. And then if I go here, I'm going to say, well, how much is a pedicure going to cost, manicure going to cost?
$60.
Okay. And you can say, and our competitors are 40. But here's why we're worth 60. That's what I love. One thing I caution entrepreneurs is when they say, I have a better product at a lower price. And I go, you had me at better product and you totally lost me at lower price. That doesn't make any sense to me. If you've got a better product, you should have a premium price. Because if it's better, people will pay for it.
Right.
So it's like, for example, so you don't have to cover all of these. These are just representative examples, But in this one, Diana, details, specifics, okay?
And Kurt is going to share the presentation with all of us, so I will be passing that along to everybody.
So here's my email, and we're not done. I mean, we could be done. Depends on you guys. I'm done with the pitch. So there's my email, and we're in between semesters. So as Kathy realized after I didn't respond to her on Monday or Tuesday that I was actually going to be here tonight, she's like, "Oh my God!" And I'm like, "I'm so sorry. I'll be there." Probably a better way to reach me is my mobile. So if you have any questions, I love entrepreneurs. I love entrepreneurs. So if you have a question, you can email me. You can call me. Or even if you email me, you can send me a text and be like, "Hey, Kurt, I emailed you these questions." And I'll go, "Okay, I'll go take a look at them." Otherwise, I'm in between semesters, so I don't know what I'll be doing tomorrow. Yeah.
We do have a question from our folks online. So Ken, hi Ken. Ken wanted to get a little more information on IBIS World and how to utilize it.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to take that, Kurt, or Brad, or a combination.
Why don't you guys take it?
Okay.
And I'm going to see if I can bring up an IBIS World report.
Okay,
I don't think I can, but maybe I can.
I can.
IBIS World is a great database that gives you industry information, as I said, trends, and we have an extra component in our BHIVE that gives us the COVID-19 trends as well, which are very important right now. So all of that is kind of bundled in what we call a Gannon University BHIVE intake, where we try to identify 1 of 3 products we provide, if not 2 products, if not 3. But as we sit down and talk through that, one of our products is to provide this information in a Startup Capital Best Practices product. And a Startup Capital Best Practices product's intention is to give you an idea of competitors like you and how they stood themselves up financially, but it's got to answer some basic questions. And some of them are about the nascent code scraping, what kind of industry information is out there. And the trends are very critical right now because the economy is unpredictable. So we bake that into that product primarily. Some of that transfers into a pitch product because some startups haven't put a pitch product together yet, and they need to get in front of a general audience. And some of that information transfers in there, but its source is the IBIS World database.
So I'm just pulling up our university's subscription, and my understand, Diana, what was the code I gave you?
It is 812113.
So kind of as Kathy talked about, here's things, and actually the version that you guys would have access to through Kathy and Brad is more advanced than this. But here it is. So here's a little thing about how COVID has affected the salon. And then you have different sections. Like here's industry at a glance. It's a $57.9 billion industry. Annual growth rate is 0.1%, not a lot of growth, but in the next 5 years, it's expected to grow at 3%, which is basically at inflation. Here's how much profit is made, profit margins, how many businesses there are, how many people it employs. There are kind of the structure of the industry, like a very positive thing is that it doesn't take a lot of money to start. It's not a super concentration is low, which means there aren't like the giants in the world. There's not like an Amazon of nail salons, right? It's a lot of little ones, which is a good thing. Strengths, weaknesses, industry performance. You know, there's just a lot of great data in here.
They never separate us from hairstylists. They always get us together. Who's in this year? In this history.
That's not good.
So that was me.
So industry outlook, products and markets, competitive landscape. I mean, the whole thing just gives you a ton of information about the industry. Again, I wouldn't suggest you spend a lot of time writing a lot about your industry because it's less relevant than your local competitors or your price, place, promotion, and whatever the other one was, product. So industry, you just need enough to say, yeah, I did my research, it's a big industry, it's growing, there's a lot of opportunities, especially if you're a local company. If you're looking to compete maybe nationally or internationally, then the industry outlook is a little bit more important. Like venture capitalists want your industry to end with a B, for billion. They want it to be growing at more than 6% a year. You know, there's certain things that but that's not what we're talking about here. So just enough to make sure that when you get asked a question about the industry, it's gonna sound rude, that you can shut the person up. And I don't mean it like that, like it's harsh as that, but you want to just, hey, well, what about the industry? And you go, well, it's this, and this. And then you look at them and say, any other questions? They go, no, I'm good. Let's move on to the next one. That's it. But
and as Dave mentioned on our first week, right, is to have that information after your Q&A slide on your pitch deck, or, you know, especially so that you have that. So yeah, you have your business plan, but when you are pitching to someone, have those as your afterthought slides. So in case someone does ask you about the industry, you can say, oh, and go to slide 72, even though your presentation ended at slide 50 with Q&A. You have those backups. So again, they know that you've done them. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
And I told everybody that is with us virtually that my computer died, so they can just unmute themselves if they have any more questions.
Okay.
Ken, are you good with that quick tour of IBIS World?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be very useful for me because my particular service is more involved with social media marketing and advertising. And it's difficult to kind of judge the trends because of how fast things change on the internet and the different factors that come into being able to do certain things with certain websites or in certain industries. with social media marketing. So I can see how this would be a good way to gauge what direction I should focus on assisting businesses.
Yeah, Ken, I think another thing I mentioned earlier that I think I'll just re-mention is every industry has a conference, a trade association. You know, there is a nail and hair salon trade association, if not a nail salon trade association. So find out where those trade associations are. They typically have a tremendous amount of data for their members. So if it's $1,000 to join, I wouldn't join it. You know, but if it's $150 to join for a year, I would join it. And then the next thing I would do is I would say, where's all the industry data that you can give me? Where are the reports? Where are the, you know, the details? Yeah. So just real quick, like here's an example of what I would do if I was Diana. I would say, hey, here's my industry. It is a $57.9 billion industry. Its growth rate was 0.1%, but it's expected to pick up to 3%. And here's a trend that just works very well for I think what you're saying. Maybe not perfectly, but like that's the first thing I read. Right? Give me a future trend. You know, it's all about. This one is all about. One of the latest industry trends concerns natural and organic products. And if that's what you're going for, you go, according to IBIS World, the future trend is exactly what I'm doing. You know, and there's other things there. All right. Anything else, folks? Sorry I take you half hour late. But does anybody have any other questions? Okay.
What's our homework? What is our homework for the week, everybody? Right? If you've done a business plan, don't get scared. Don't get scared. But if you've already done your business plan, to go back and take a look at this section, right? And Kurt will send me the presentation with the notes, and I'll send that out. And I'll also be sending out some information. I found a really good article series. So as we do each business boot camp week, I'll be sending that out. So you'll get that. But the homework is to either write it or look at it. And if you have any questions, please reach out to myself, to Kurt with, you know, with any questions, or hey, can you take a look at this? Because you know, that's all part of why we're doing it week by week. So it's not, hey, do your business plan. You're going, oh my gosh, this is so daunting. But breaking it down, right? So like right now, I'm organizing my scrapping room, and each day I have to do something. So right now I have to put stuff I don't want in a pile. And that's tonight's homework. But, you know, so we don't want it to be daunting. Don't save it all for, oh my gosh, it's week 8. I got to get my business plan done. Take each section, right? And work on it a little bit. And we're always here to assist and help you.
Yeah, and the one thing I would say that I always tell my students is, so I ask them this question, I'll ask you guys this question. When is a business plan out of date? Yeah, as soon as you're done writing it, it's already out of date. Because things change, because the only constant in life is change. So why write a business plan? Right? And for me, the answer is it is a sales document. But the first consumer of a business plan is us as an entrepreneur. Because if I said to any of you guys, who are your biggest competitors? What are your trends? What's your industry? Who's your customer segment? What's their demographics? What's their psychographic? You probably don't know that. So writing the business plan is about, so as entrepreneurs, we are hopelessly optimistic. We drink our own Kool-Aid, you know, we drink the Kool-Aid. So if you, as an entrepreneur, you have, you know, as an entrepreneur, people will tell you constantly that you can't do it. And most of it's out of kindness. They're trying to save you heartache. They're trying to, some of it's envy and some of it's, you know, there's good and bad. Most of it's good. But everybody's going to tell you, you can't do, you're too young. You're like, what's your business idea, G?
So
It won't work. You're too young. You're undercapitalized. You're not experienced enough, right? So what we have to do as entrepreneurs is we have to continue to believe in our vision, because if we don't believe in our vision, no one else will. What a business plan does a little bit is it also, though, makes our feet touch the ground. So it's our own intellectual honesty when we go through the business plan and we look at these things. Because you may get through the middle of a business plan and you may say, oh my gosh, I don't have a business here. And I would say, bravo, good for you. Then stop it and go do, we have a limited amount of time, a limited amount of money, and a limited amount of passion. And don't spend those things on an idea that's going to fail. So in the entrepreneurial world, they'll say, if you're going to fail, fail fast. So you can just get to the next one. Because most entrepreneurs, here's another statistic, most entrepreneurs don't hit it until their fourth or fifth venture. Which means their first one fails, second one fails, third one fails, fourth one may fail. For me, it was my fourth. Which means I had 3 failures. And I always do quotes with failures because I don't believe in failure. Right? If you learn something, we just talked about this, if you're learning something, it will make you a better person, a better employee, a better entrepreneur the next time you do something. So this isn't a one and done. It's an evolution. And you're going to learn so much. So you are the first consumer of a business plan, so that you can understand all the pieces. Because I said, when is a business plan out of date? The day you're done writing it. It's not 100% out of date. It's 1% out of date, and then 2%, and then 3%, and then you go around and you tweak those. It's a living document. But what it does is it solidifies our feet on the ground, so that when we talk about our vision, we can bridge all the way between vision, 30,000 feet, all the way down to ground level, and convince people to invest or invest in us, to give us equipment on, things on terms to our vendors, to get a loan, to get employees. It's a sales document for everything, but first, it's a document for us to truly understand and put into words what our vision is. Because when you hand your business plan to someone, that's a piece of you. That is literally a piece of you. And it represents who you are to that reader. And people will judge you on your business plan. Because it is you. So you've got to make sure it's right. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm done. Okay? Have a great week. Am I back here?
Pardon me?
Am I back here next week or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Ish, for the last half hour, but I need to talk to Tom because I think Tom is like you and I think he's going to take the whole time.
Okay.
So, or at least maybe beyond.
I can be, whatever, just let me know.
Yeah.
Just let me know.
Sure.
Good luck, guys. So remember, how do you eat a whale? One bite at a time.
Yep.
Don't have to eat the whole whale. Just take the bites out today. Here's what I'd say. Work on your industry and work on your competitive matrix. Those are the 2 that I would work on. All right, guys.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Everybody that's online, thank you for joining us. And you guys will see each other next week.
Yep, for sure.
I'm going to close this.
Yep, thank you. And then don't forget to stop recording since you're the host.
Okay.
There they are. Hi, Letitia.
Hey.
Hi, Ken.
Hello,
Hi,
guys.
Dr. Kuchinikov.
Thanks for joining us. If you have any questions, let me know. Take care, guys.
Thanks, everybody. As I wave. Oh, and a little homework for those in.